Welcome to the very first episode of the No Brick All Bucket podcast. I am your host, Alexis Guzman, and today we have a very special guest. We have three-time NBA champion with the Chicago Bulls, the sixth overall pick in the 1989 NBA draft. He made the NBA All-Rookie second team in 1990, and now he's the color commentator for the Chicago Bulls, and as well as the host of the Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast, Stacey King. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, bud?
Like I said before, it's really an honor that you gave me an opportunity to do this interview with you. Someone that I've admired. I started watching the Bulls in the 2011 season, the Derrick Rose era when it was you and Neil Funk. And then you guys just had that chemistry that brought the excitement to the games, even for me as a youngster. So I appreciate that.
Oh, man, it's a pleasure. I was a player for the Bulls. I've been in the organization almost 30 years now. So I've seen a lot in my time. I've seen the highs, the lows, the in-betweens.
Right.
It's been a great ride for me. This will be year 16 for me as a broadcaster. With the total of almost 30 years in the NBA in general as a player and as a broadcaster. And it's just one of those things that, when you never know what when I got done, with basketball, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I wanted to coach. I didn't know if I wanted to go into broadcasting right away.
Right.
So I went into coaching. I coached in the minor leagues, the CBA, the Continental Basketball Association. I was a head coach down there for 4 years and won about 70% of my games. So
wow.
I was good at it. I was pretty good at it. And I had aspirations of being an NBA coach.
Okay.
And, but what happened was that I had kids, and they were young, and coaching is 24/7, 365. And it really taking me away from my kids. And as a player, they were little, they were a little bit different when they're like little toddlers, but when they start getting to grade school and middle school, they need a father there. They need to have a father impact there. So that kind of squelched my dreams of being an NBA coach.
but I mean, broadcasting, you've done such amazing work. So you couldn't go wrong with that choice either.
No, that's what I went to school for, journalism and broadcasting. And so I'm kind of following in the footsteps of where I went to school, what I went to school for. Mm-hmm. It was a natural progression for me because the fact of my personality.
Right.
I bring my own sense of style and flair to broadcasting. I'm not like anybody else.
Definitely, yeah.
When I started, I was in my own lane. And now, if you look 15, 16 years later, there's a lot of people following in my footsteps on how I do things,
Exactly.
The nicknames, the cliches, the energy, the references to pop culture. Mm-hmm. You see a lot more guys following in my footsteps. So I kind of, in a sense, was a trendsetter.
Right. That was kind of my first question for you. You're notable for having so many catchphrases. You have Give Me the Hot Sauce. You have the recent ones like Magic Johnson and Tice Baby. How do you come up with that? Is it do you watch a movie or listen to something? You're like, I could use that.
Well, it's kind of street ball lingo, to be honest with you.
Right.
I grew up talking trash on the court, having trash talk to me.
Definitely, yeah.
Playing the dozens, as we call it, when you talk about someone's clothes, their shoes. You learn how to be quick-witted doing those things. Having those, I liken it to a rap battle.
Okay.
You have guys, great rappers, and they go at each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that with words. Growing up, we had battles with words. We talk about your clothes, we talk about your hairstyle. Your eyebrow being different than the other eyebrow. Anything. Thing that was an advantage, you had to attack someone. So you learn how to be a wordsmith per se. And so, and then you get on the court and there's people talking trash to you and you score a bucket on them, they score a bucket on you. You just things up as you go along. And then you kind of mix in the personality because personality is the most important thing. If you got a electric personality, a fun personality, and then you can do all those other things, it just makes it one big special thing.
Right, you're versatile, kind of everything.
Yeah. I kind of liken it to being like a rapper per se. I'm not talking over beats or anything like that. But the quick flow. Everything flows out. There's nothing generic about it. It's its own style, own personality. And like I said, when I first started in the broadcasting, first games being on TV, people said I couldn't be that way. You can't be that way. You got to be a certain way. You got to be just like this guy or that guy. And I felt, no, I don't think you have to be that way. God created everybody differently. I think you have to have your own personality. You have to have your own way of how you deliver things, as long as it doesn't take away from what you're doing. For me, as long as it doesn't take away from the game. I think people, and I've kind of gotten away from a little bit over the years, because people, it's just like when you do a dunk contest, and it's like you do these spectacular dunks, and it's like, okay, the next year people want you to do something even more filthier than what you, and it's almost impossible to do it. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then it kind of, when you don't meet those expectations, you let certain people down. Like, oh man, I thought that would be better. And it's kind of like how I do things. So I've kind of gotten away from a little bit. I don't do the nicknames as much as I used to. One, the team hasn't had the success that it was having, earlier on. So it's kind of hard. And nicknames are earned. You got to earn nicknames, man. You got to go out there by your play, and you got to earn nicknames. They're just not given. You look at all the nicknames that I've given. I mean, I gave, Jimmy Butler his nickname when he was only playing 8 minutes a game as a rookie. Right. But I saw something in the kid that, I thought he was special. I thought, one thing he did do, he was tough. He's from Texas. I'm from Oklahoma.
Right next to each other.
Yes. He was a great defensive player, even as a rookie. So I felt like he deserved a nickname. And I remember him coming up to me saying, hey, you give all these other guys nicknames. How come you don't give me nicknames? and I said, Jimmy, well, you're only playing 8 minutes a game. You got to get out there. And he said, well, you got to give me a nickname. So I said, all right, I'm going to get you a nickname. Okay. Next time you go out on the court, I'm going to have some kind of nickname for you. So he was in like garbage minutes or something. And I came up with a name, Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for gets. So Jimmy gets buckets. Right. And it's kind of a Chicago thing, like kind of the mob name, like Jimmy Buckets or Tommy Two Tones. You had that kind of gangster flair to it, and it's a Chicago style. So Jimmy G Buckets, it kind of fit to the Chicago style. And then that's his nickname now. I mean, he's got merchandise, Jimmy G Bucket. So I helped create a phenomenon.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's stuck to him since even now with the Miami Heat. People still have the merch and stuff at games and stuff.
You hear national guys call him Jimmy Bucket. Oh, Bucket by Jimmy Bucket. Derrick Rose. His the Windy City Assassin. Him being from Chicago, growing up in Chicago, that kind of stuck too, because he is an assassin. He's a quiet assassin. He doesn't talk trash. He doesn't get excited, and he just sneaks up on you and kills you. Before you know it, you've been beaten. He's got 30 on you.
Definitely,
or he dumps on your head. So Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson, hard hat lunch pail. Always punching the clock. Some other ones, like I like my meatball spicy when we had Marco Bellinelli in here. Right. Too big, too strong, too fast, too good. Yep. That's a signature phrase for Derrick. When he first came in, and during his MVP season, he just overwhelmed everybody. He overwhelmed everybody with his athleticism, his quickness, his ferocity. He just he wasn't very big. I mean, 6'3" is not small, but when he was jumping over 7-footers and dunking on them, there was no one in the league more exciting than him when he was healthy.
And he wasn't scared either. He just went for it as well.
Yeah, well, that's Chicago, man. Inglewood, man. You can't be afraid.
Exactly.
Growing up in Inglewood on the South Side. So, but you know what? Like I said, those were some special times, and I liken it to like when Johnny Red Kerr was able to call Michael Jordan games. Being an analyst and seeing Michael play in those championship teams. I can only imagine. I know what it felt like as a player. Right. It was difficult times, but I can only imagine what it'd been like as a broadcaster if I would have been in that situation
at that time.
Well, at that time with that kind of player. Oh my goodness, man! I would have probably came up with a million.
Yeah, for sure. So for you, like, what was the most difficult part of broadcasting, like when you first got into it?
Well, I think the first couple of seasons, um, I was coming in, as a third guy in the booth with Johnny Red Curtis. He was getting older, and he was having some health issues. They brought me in. I was doing the pre and post game show, and they brought me in to be the third man in the booth to try to take some off Johnny, and then kind of like slowly integrate myself into being the next guy. See, it's hard. I've always believed that, you don't want to be the guy that replaces the guy.
Right.
Exactly. You always want to be the third or fourth guy to replace him because he has such big shoes, man. I mean, you follow behind an iconic guy like Johnny Red Curry, the Bulls' first coach. He was a broadcaster. He was a Hall of Fame player, a college All-American. And people grew up listening to Johnny Red Curtis. So it's kind of like Harry Carey, Jack Brickhouse, Hawk Harrelson, to come behind those legends, man, that's almost impossible to even get close to what they've done. So I think the first year, especially the first year, my personality didn't really show every game. I would have bits and pieces and kind of give the fans bits and pieces of what they can expect out of me with my quick wittiness and stuff. But then I also had to be very careful because I was very cognizant of Johnny being the guy. And I didn't want to step on his toes. I didn't want to, over talk him, or I wanted him to continue to do the things that he does. I'll just fall back. And whenever I have an opportunity to be me, then I'll kind of slide in there. But I was more giving Johnny the respect that he deserved to let him. It's his show, man. I'm just here.
Exactly.
Like, the bullpen. I'm like Mariano Rivera. When you call, in the ninth inning, you call me, and I'm gonna come in.
Now, as you said before, like you said, like the Derrick Rose era, and that's like exciting times to commentate and broadcast. Like these past seasons, is it harder? Like, since the Bulls kind of went in a slump, the rebuilding, is it harder to commentate during those times? Like,
no, not really. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what the hardest part of it was this year. Because you gotta, there's ebbs and flows in the NBA. There's great seasons, and then there's seasons where they're rebuilding. You see it all the time. It's ups and downs. Every team goes through it. I think the hardest part this year for me was probably the hardest part of calling any games in my whole career. And I've seen some bad games, okay? But this year with the COVID and the uncertainties of, are we going to be able to get a season in, trying to stay healthy, trying not to get sick, the players to stay healthy, not having fans in the arenas. That was really, really tough. And then also I had a new partner, Adam Amin, who took over for the legendary, Neil Funk.
Right.
And, we had to come together very quickly. I think the great thing about that is that Adam was able to do a few games, a couple of years, before when Neil would miss. So it made the transition real smooth. Plus, he's a pro. I mean, he made it really. The transition was really, really like flawless. And then just the hardest part, like when we would do the road games, because we didn't travel this year, so we had to do the road games from a remote location in the city. Channel 5 studios, and I would be in a room, and Adam would be in a room, and we'd be like social distancing each other. Okay. So when you would see us on TV, you'd think we were in the same room talking.
Exactly.
And and then to call the game from a monitor, like you're not seeing the players live. You're not hearing the players talk or the coaches talk because being a broadcaster and an analyst, I can hear certain things that you can't hear on TV. I can hear what play they're going to run, what they're trying to get after a timeout. I can hear what defensive set they're in, what they're trying to do, who they're trying to stop, because I'm on the floor. Right. Whereas now, we're nowhere near the floor. So we had to be separated. So I didn't get to hear all those extra things that helps me as a broadcaster. But I think the biggest thing is and not so much that they didn't win. I'm encouraged with the way the team is going, the direction. We got 2 all-stars, the front office, new front office. This is their first year. Right. They hit a home run, with Patrick Williams. I think he's going to be an all-star, Zach LaVine, all-star this year. Vucevic, an all-star. So you got 2 all-stars potentially. That's my dogs in the background.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. Potentially you have a third one in Patrick Williams. AK and Mark Eversley has done a great job in their first season. I think people, have to be a little bit patient because you've heard so much over the years. This is rebuild. And I think fans are tired of hearing rebuild. But when they see the results of the rebuild and the pieces that they brought in, think about Garrett Temple, how good Garrett Temple played this year. Yep. Think about, Billy Donovan as a coach compared to the other coaches that were there before him. Billy Donovan showed that he's got the potential to be a great coach. Players follow him. Zach LaVine had his best season of his career with Billy Donovan. They were able to go get an all-star in Orlando and Vooch. Yeah, you had to give up Wendell Carter Jr. and a first-round pick, but at the same time, it was a protected first-round pick. So if we would have got a top 3 pick or top 4 pick, we would have kept that pick. But anything after 4 in a draft nowadays is just kind of a crapshoot because you don't know what you're going to get. So when you look at the foreshadowing of what the Bulls did, they gave up a first-round pick that ended up being 8th, I think. Okay, we've been 7th and 6th, 7th for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah. So this year we were 8. We're one below what we've always been. So if you're going to tell me I got a chance to get an all-star center and then have the 8th pick, which one would I rather have? I'll take the what I know, an all-star, multiple-time all-star center, which we need. And I thought that was a great move on their part. It happened midway through the season. It's tough to, for the dividends to pay off. But at the same time, they weren't building for last year. This is where they're building this year because now they get a summer league. So the younger players can play in the summer league, get some experience. You got Vooch now will have a full training camp in Chicago with his teammates and not just getting off the plane. Hey, we're going to play tonight. Get out there and play. There was no continuity. There was no, you could just tell it was very difficult for the Bulls the first 3 weeks of the season trying to get all these new guys in.
Yeah, like that first game against San Antonio, I believe. I remember watching it. They're like kind of confused. They weren't used to like passing inside to the paint. They're used to Wendell kind of waiting there to hand the ball to Zach and stuff.
It's a big adjustment, man. When you get a guy that can give you 20 and 10 every night, and then you gave up a guy who wasn't very comfortable in the paint, scoring with his back to the basket, it's a big adjustment to get used to because before, you throw Lowry doesn't post up a lot. Wendell tried to post up, and then when you throw it in there to a guy who's not comfortable, can Wendell get better? Yeah. Can he become a better post player? Yeah. If you work on your game, everybody can become better. Just depends on how hard you want to work and how bad you want to be better. But we know with Vooch, you got a guy every night that requires a double team. You got a guy every night. If you don't double team, he's going for 30 or 40. And he's going to get you 10 to 12 boards every night. So that's a given. I would rather take as a coach and as a front office person, I would rather have what I know than what I don't know. Right. You have that what you know. You got an all-star caliber center here that's a 2010 guy that can shoot threes. He's just not a post-up guy. He can also stretch the floor, which is what you need now in this day and age.
Exactly.
Than what you don't know. We have a guy at the 8th pick. Could he be a great player? Yeah, he could. But what if he doesn't? He could be an all-star, but what if he doesn't? That's the unknown. You don't know what you're going to get now. Had you got the number 1 pick, got a chance for a superstar player. Number 2 pick, number 3, and number 4. Those top 4 guys in this draft, those are kind of like I kind of know what I'm going to get with these guys. But after 4, can you find superstars later in the draft? Yes, you do it all the time. Can you find a superstar at the number 18 pick? Yeah, you can. But it's like the lottery. It's like playing the lottery. It's a gamble.
It is, exactly. So the draft is coming up tomorrow. And I kind of want to talk about your career with the Bulls. When you got started in the league, who was kind of like your mentor? Who kind of like helped you with the ropes?
It was Bill Cartwright and John Paxson. Those guys, especially Bill. Took me under his wing and really helped me with the NBA game, how to prepare, I learned so much about the NBA game from Bill Cartwright and John Paxson, and they're two of my greatest friends even today. Yeah. You know, that whole championship team is a really tight group. You know, we always constantly keep in contact with one another. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really a bond of brotherhood. You know, and it's awesome to still see guys. You know, 25 years later, right, still as tight as we were when we played.
You just have that chemistry, you know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, when you spend more time with your teammates at the NBA level than you do with your family, basically.
Right.
You know, and so they become your family. You know, they become your brothers. They become your father figures. You know, I came in as a 22-year-old. You know, Bill Cartwright was in his 30s. You know, so he was more kind of like an old a father figure towards me. You know, and so I listened to him with that respect of a dad. You know, I didn't go, old man, I didn't do any of that. I came in humble. You know, I came in confident when I came in. I'm not gonna lie, I was very confident. I came out of University of Oklahoma, averaging almost 30 points a game. Right. You know, on a high-powered offensive team at one of the top college basketball teams in the program over that period of time. You know, in the late 80s. So I was very confident in my abilities, but you know, you come to the NBA, you know, I come on a team where they had already won 50 games without me.
Right.
You know, when you go to a lottery, when you're in a lottery pick, you go to a bad team. You know,
exactly.
You go to a team that, you know, you look at all these teams that are, you know, these kids are going to go to the lottery picks this year. Those kids are going to teams that didn't make the playoffs, that are struggling.
Pistons,
you know? Yeah. So like when I came in, you know, I'm the 6th pick in the draft. And I'm going to a team that won 50 games that's on the cusp of doing some special things. So they were already established before I came in. You know, so people go, well, you know, Stacey, you know, he didn't start it. You know, I started games in Chicago. I started games with the Bulls. But this team was already established before I came in here. I mean, there was really no position that was not solid when I came here. Exactly. You had starting center, Bill Cartwright. You had starting power forward Horace Grant, small forward Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan as your 2, and Pax as your 1. That's a solid championship starting 5 right there.
Right.
So now, you know, you're drafted myself, BJ Armstrong, and Jeff Sanders in the first round. The Bulls got 3 first-round picks that year. 3. And this is why when you hear that rule, the protected first-round pick, is because of our draft. Of the 89 draft, because the Bulls traded Orlando Woolridge to the New Jersey Nets for a future first-round pick, which turned out to be me. And it was unprotected. There was no protection of picks back then.
Right.
So they ended up getting a lottery pick, New Jersey, which was the 6th. I could have easily played New Jersey. And so they had made that trade, Orlando Woolridge. That pick turned out to be a lottery pick, and there was no picks unprotected. People, and you got to remember at that time, Orlando Woolridge was a really good player in the NBA at that time. So New Jersey's thinking, hey, look, man, we got this all-star caliber player. You know, this is the big-time scorer. We don't know what's going to happen in the draft. So, we'll trade that pick. Who cares? Give us that all-star. So they get him. And then I'm the lottery pick. The Bulls already had 18. That was their pick anyway. Yeah. So they have to trade their pick to get another pick. So they were able to keep 18. And I think it was 20. I think the second pick was like 23 or something. I don't know what Jeff Sanders was, but he was a first rounder. So they had 3 first-round picks on a 50-win team that took the Pistons to like 6 games in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference. That was the year that Michael hit the game-winning shot against Cleveland, which was a huge upset. You know, Cleveland was supposed to win that series. Cleveland was the second best team in the Eastern Conference behind the Pistons, and so Michael hit that game-winning shot, and that sent them down. That was a huge upset. And then the Bulls ended up losing to the Pistons, in the next round, I think, and they went to like 6 or 7 games, but the point is, you're in the lottery, you got 3 first-round picks on a 50-win team. Imagine in today's game if the Lakers got three picks with LeBron right now. Think about how their team would be set for the next few decades. Think about if a team like Phoenix was able to get 3 one lottery pick and 2 first-rounders. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's why today's game they have the protected picks.
Yeah.
So when someone trades a future first round pick, you always hear that tag, it's protected if it's a lottery.
Right.
So they have to protect themselves because they don't want to give up a lottery. So that's why when we made that trade to get Vooch, we protected that pick. That pick was protected. So if it turned out to be a lottery, the Bulls would have gotten that, kept that pick, plus they would have kept Vooch. Right. And then they would have gave them a first round the next year that would be unprotected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't even know that about the whole unprotected about 3 first round picks for the Bulls.
Yeah. People don't know that, man. That helped those 3 first round picks. Two of us end up being rotational players that helped the Bulls win a championship. That made the Bulls bench stronger per se. You're getting starter caliber players in the draft that are coming off your bench. So most of the time, our second team was better than the other team's second team.
Yeah.
I mean, you got BJ coming off the bench. You had me coming off the bench. You had Craig Hodges coming off the bench. I mean, you had a ton of guys coming off the bench. There were Scott Williams that all could be starters on NBA teams.
Right.
Cliff Levingston, Dennis Hobson. I mean, we had Bobby Hansen. I mean, we had a ton. Bobby Hansen started in Utah.
Right. Yeah.
So we had guys. Dennis Hobson was a starter in New Jersey his first 4 or 5 years in the league. Cliff Levingston started in Atlanta for some time when he was there. So we had guys coming off the bench that could actually start for almost every single team in the NBA.
It's just the Bulls were just so stacked,
Yeah. And see, people don't understand how good that team really was. You look at old Michael, but there was so much talent up and down that roster that that sometimes gets overlooked. Michael is the greatest player of all time. And he was the beacon of those teams. But underneath him were killers. Exactly. Everybody else, Scotty, Horace, John Paxson, Bill Cartwright, myself, BJ, Craig Hodges, Charles Davis, Ed Neely, Will Perdue. I mean, Scott Williams. I mean, I can go down the line, Craig Hodges, down the line of all the guys that were on that team that had the killer mentality. But the thing that made that team special was the players made sacrifices.
Right.
You have to make sacrifices on a championship and a winning team if you want to win. You can't have an ego, me, or, I. It's got to be we. I come from Oklahoma where I average like 29 points a game. Think about how many college kids now average 29 points in a game. Mm-hmm. You don't see it.
Yeah.
You don't see it. So, I averaged almost 30 points a game and 10 rebounds and, 3 blocks a game coming out of University of Oklahoma. So I know how to win. I know how to be on a winning team.
Yeah.
So you have to make sacrifices. Like if I went to the Clippers or a team that lost, I'd probably have been a 10-time All-Star.
Right.
Coming, riding the wave that I had coming from college. And then I would have been able to play 30 minutes a night. I could have had the green light to shoot anytime I wanted to.
Right.
Exactly. There's a big difference. I mean, seriously, if I told you right now, I put you on the Bulls, okay? Right. And let's say you got talent. You're a good basketball player. You're a young player. And I tell you, Big A, you're going to shoot it anytime you want. If it hits your hands, you like the shot, take it. You play with that type of confidence, dude. I mean, not too many people can stop you.
Right.
Because if you miss a shot, you're not coming out.
Exactly.
If you turn the ball over and make a bad play, you're not coming out. And that's how I played. I played free when I was in college because I knew I could do whatever I want in college. I played on a team that all the players knew that. We had the freedom. And so when you come to a championship caliber team, you don't have that much freedom. You don't have that kind of freedom that you had in college. Now you got to try to find your way. Where do I fit in on this team? How can I take my talents and that are very good and blend them in with these other players? Like where the pecking order am I going to find? So I got to try to find my way. It's kind of like I liken it to puppies, when they're little puppies and they're trying to get the milk and, everybody's fighting for position to get some food. Mm-hmm. And then there's that one guy, there's one puppy that gets knocked off. He never eats the smallest of the bunch, but all the other ones are fat because they're eating. Right. That's kind of how it is in the NBA on a championship team. You got to get in where you fit in. You got to put your talents and say, okay, I got to check my ego at the door. I can't be like, like, oh, I need to play more minutes. How, I can't be like selfish like that. How can I help the team? What talents can I do? My role on the team was score when they needed me to score, block shots, run the floor, and play defense. That was my role. And then there would be nights where Phil would say, hey, look, I need you to score tonight. And I'd go out there and get 20 plus, there's when I started for Bill Cartwright, they would give Bill Cartwright like 2 weeks off just to rest himself. And I would go in the starting lineup. I was the NBA player of the month. I averaged 18 points a game and like 9 or 10 boards. So basketball people knew I could do certain things and score at a high level. It was just on a championship team. I had to find my role and try to define it and then play it to the best of my ability.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like you gotta you'll shine, when it's your time, but you just gotta find a role. And I think
here's the thing I tell kids all the time. Like the cream always rises to the top.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you go out there and do what you're supposed to do, play hard, be a team player, be a good person, things are going to come your way. You know what I'm saying? The pie is big enough for everybody to eat. One person ain't going to eat the whole pie.
Right.
So when you're a championship team, you got to have that mentality that, Michael gets all the attention. I don't really care. It's big enough for everybody to shine. And to win championships, people remember winners. I don't care if you ask somebody who won the Super Bowl, who finished second in the Super Bowl 4 years ago. You wouldn't even know. You'd have to go look on the internet. Okay. But if you said who won, you probably know who it was. People remember. And so I'm a winner. I want to win at all costs. If we playing basketball, even now, I'm 54 years old. I'll try to kill you. Like I want to win so bad. If we playing video games, I want to try to kill you. That's how that whole team was. And we fostered a mentality of killers. Like we were all killers. That's why we won. And everybody pulled for one another. There was no animosity, no jealousies, no pettiness. And a lot of teams, like a lot of NBA teams that don't win, you have that kind of stuff, jealousy and pettiness. That's why they never win. Because you look at their team, you go, man, they're talented. Man, they got a lot of talent on the team. But everybody wants to be the man. Everybody wants to be Batman, and few people want to be Robin or Alfred. No, they don't want to be either one of those two.
Right.
Batman. You know what I'm saying? Batman's cool. He's the main guy. I don't want to be Robin. I don't want to be Alfred. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be Commissioner Gordon. You don't want to be any of those people.
So you want to be the main guy.
You want to be the main guy.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like the problem with Brooklyn. You got Kyrie, Harden, Durant. Obviously, they're generational talents, but they got to share the ball. They're all ball handlers.
There's so too many. Sometimes you can have too many chefs in the kitchen.
Right.
You in my experience as a player and as a coach, you have to have a pecking order.
Yeah.
You have to. It's just like in everyday work. You have CEO of a company, and then you have everybody underneath them. Everybody knows their role. Okay, whether it's a superintendent, project manager, just a worker, everyone knows their role. Just like in a beehive, you got the queen bee, and you got everybody beneath.
Everyone else.
Okay, so there's no difference in basketball. You have to have a number one guy, and then 2, 3, 4, and you have a pecking order. And then everybody, once they find their role, they have to play their role to the best of their ability. There can't be any side eye, no jealousy, pettiness. Stacey got more attention than me. Because when you start doing that, then that creeps into what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is for us to win as a team.
Right.
Trying to win as an individual. You want individual success. Well, if you want individual success, you need to go play tennis, or you need to go swim, or you need to do martial arts where it's one-on-one. Yeah. But in basketball, it's 12 to 15 guys all pulling in the same direction.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about real quick about your 3 championships. I mean, which one for those 3 was the hardest for you, or as a team collectively?
Honestly, none of them really hard. I mean,
no.
I think the championships honestly were easy. I think the hardest part was just getting through the Pistons.
You're right.
The hardest part, getting through the Pistons, and I thought the finals were easy. To be honest with you, it was just getting through the Pistons because it was a mental it was a mental grind, a mental battle. They were, they caused so many problems for us on a mental and a physical level. And once we were able to master how to beat them, then everything else was easy.
Right. And then
those series with Detroit were brutal.
Right.
I mean, those are when I say war. I mean, I don't know what a war feels like. I'm not in the military, and I'm not disrespecting any military people who actually been in war. My dad was in the Vietnam War, but I mean, that's probably about as close as you can get to a war as far as hand-on-hand combat and the physicality of the the games. I mean, the hard fouls. I mean, fouls in those games right there would be automatic ejections for a week in this league. Get down. My dog is up on down. Get down. Oh, yeah, he doesn't want me to do an interview right now.
He's like, give me attention.
He's right.
I got a puppy at home. I had to put her outside. I mean, she kept scratching the door.
They were asleep, and as soon as I started this interview, they just woke up, and now they're like prancing around here and stuff. So I'm like, oh.
Oh my God. I just kind of want to wrap this up with kind of talking about the future of the Bulls. What kind of signings do you think the Bulls should make or trades, to really push us to the playoffs, maybe even like a second round play?
Well, I think they're going in the right direction. What people have to understand, there's this new narrative that you have to have 3 superstars to win. Right. That's a bunch of crap because Milwaukee showed you that you don't have to have that. And then Phoenix also showed you didn't have to have 3. Okay, right. What you do have to have is you have to, if you're the general manager and you're the front office of the Bulls, you have to recognize who your core group is. Who's our top 6 or 7 guys, and what are their skill sets, and how are they as players? Can we now build around these guys? Because it's a 12-man roster, I think. So you've got 5 starters out of that group, hopefully. Okay, you got 2 all-stars that's great to build with right there. Right. Okay, then you start to look at, we got Patrick, Williams, Kobe White. That's 4 solid ones right there. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you're looking at, I need veterans on my team. I need good veterans that can still play and do it for us. Okay, so now you look at Thaddeus Young. That's 5 right there. That's solid 5 right there. Yeah. If you want to say to yourself, okay, I need a big guard that can play multiple positions. Like, I need a guy that can play the 1, 2, and the 3. It can defend all 3 of those positions. Who on our team can kind of do that right now? And I would say Sato. Sato would be a guy that's versatile enough to can do that. So right there, you got six really, really good core pieces. Yeah. Now, the next 6 guys you have to build around. Now you got to go find those guys. So now you say, okay, is Patrick Williams a 3 or is he a 4? Okay, that's the big question. Yeah, I think he can play both positions. He can defend any position on the floor. Yeah, but let's just say we move him to the 4. Let's say we make him a stretch 4. Okay, he's much more comfortable there, where he can use his quickness against other 4s, and he'll get better as a shooter. So now I need me a wing shooter. I need someone that can also defend, and it's tough, like a Jay Crowder, right. Danny Green type of player that can defend his position but also stretch the floor. I need that kind of player. That kind of player that brings the toughness defensively every single night and can spot up and hit threes. A PJ Tucker type of guy. You know what I'm saying? That you don't have to break the bank for, but come in, give you leadership. I mean, those guys, when you look at those guys from Phoenix and Milwaukee, PJ Tucker and Crowder, I mean, those guys were huge for them this year.
Definitely.
Jay Crowder played his second NBA Finals back to back on 2 different teams. Right. So what does that tell you about the guy? Like, he's a winner. So you bring a guy like him on, and I'm not saying the Bulls could get him, but that's the kind of player I would say that would fill out my rotation. So now you got Crowder and a Danny Green type of player. Yeah. So now you got a solid 8. You get you another big man, like a rim protecting big man that can move his feet, slide his feet defensively, can switch on pick and rolls. Someone like a Nerlens Noel type of player You know, they can guard guys like I would love to have Tice. I would love to have Tice, but I think he's gonna get paid big money because too many teams out there need a player like him, and that kind of sucks. That we're gonna lose him possibly. Right. And I'm a big Lowry fan. I'm one of the few people that love Lowry. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to see Lowry go. Okay. No. Lowry would be still perfect in this team, you know, because you need shooters. But his role would have to change. He would have to become him, Vucevic, and Zach. And Patrick Williams really are a really solid four. Okay. Yeah. But the problem is that, you know, if in order for us to be a good team, not just a team that makes the first round and gets beat all the time, right? Zach has to be a better two-way player. He's got to be like he's playing defense in the Olympics. That's good. He needs to play here every night. Okay. And the reason why he's playing defense there because he's being held accountable there. The other players are saying, hey, look, you know, the coach is probably saying, hey, if you want to play, you got to play some defense. We know you can score. So now he's out there playing defense. He's played better defense. I've seen him since he's been a Bull player.
Okay? I was watching the game last night, and like he was really on. You know, he was like
he was guarding people. Stopping. He was getting through screens. He was doing everything you need him to do here in Chicago. So we know he can do it. So in order for us, and that's what I would tell Zach as a coach, in order for us to take the next step, you got to be a two-way player. Chris Middleton is a two-way player. You know, Drew Holiday is a two-way player. You know, that was the difference in them winning the championship because they could defend. Right. And, you know, they're not just scorers. So, you know, I have an idea because, like I said, I'm from the old school of how Phil Jackson put teams together. That's how I would put a team together. You know, you identify your core group of guys, the guys you feel like, okay, these guys are long-term foundational pieces. Right. That's what Phil did with us all the time. He's top 7 or 8 players. This is our foundation. This is who we are. Now let's put some players around them, get some specialty. We need a 3-point shooter, maybe an extra big man that can guard 2 or 3 positions, and let's go.
Right. Definitely. And then, you know, the big question mark right now is the point guard position. You know, you got big names. You got Lonzo. You got Kyle Lowry coming up in names, Dennis Schroeder. Who do you think is the perfect match? I mean, I could get an idea of who you're going to say, but I want to hear from you.
For us, it'd be Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball would be perfect for us because he's a pass-first point guard. He's a big point guard, about 6'6". Yeah. He can rebound. He can defend. I mean, he's a pass-first, pass-second point guard. Yeah. And for what we have with our 2 guys that can actually score, you need a guy that can set the table for those guys. Make Zach kind of like what Chris Paul did for Booker. Right. Chris Paul made Booker a much more efficient scorer instead of a high-volume scorer, high-volume shooter. Definitely. He became much more efficient, you know, less shots, but more higher average. Yeah. Because he was able to get set up nicely, catch and shoots, you know, read the defense and how he's coming off screens. And if Zach had a point guard like that, he would be a much more efficient scorer like Booker because they're very similar. I mean, both those guys go out there and get 40 like it's nothing. Definitely, hey, keep it down in there, buddy. But they're tossing bones in the room now. So yeah, so if you get a guy like Alonzo, also he's a very good defensive player. He can rebound for you at the point guard position at 6'6" and start the break, which that's what he wants to do. Yeah. He's a phenomenal passer. He's got high basketball IQ. His 3-point shot has been improved. He shot a career high in 3 points this year. He's really worked on his shot from when he first came in. He's changed the mechanics. So he's a guy that you can tell wants to be good and wants to be great, and he works on it. And that's the kind of player, if I'm, you know, AK and Mark and the Bulls front office, I'm looking at a guy, number one, does he like to play? Right. Number one, does he love basketball? Or does he love basketball for what it brings to him? The fame, the money, all the other little stuff. Yeah. Or is he a guy that would play for free? If, you know, that tells you got a love for a game. The dude will be working at McDonald's and playing the NBA too. Definitely. You know, that tells you that you have a love for the game. That's the kind of love I need to see, you know? Correct. And then also, is he a great teammate? You don't ever hear anything bad about Lonzo Ball in the Lakers or in New Orleans. Everybody loves him as a teammate. You know, I hope they're able to get him because now the dilemma is now you bring in, you know, Kobe White off the bench possibly. Now he becomes a designated scorer.
Right.
You know, and then if you're not able to keep Sato, you hear Derrick Rose name mentioned. Now you get Derrick Rose and Zoe, you've upgraded your guard position tenfold because now you got Derrick Rose. And honestly, in my opinion, Derrick Rose is still starter in this league.
Oh, yeah.
Derrick Rose can start on probably 90% of the teams in the NBA right now. I mean, if I had my choice, I'm talking Lonzo and Derrick Rose. I'll take those two guys over all the rest of the point guards because I like Mike Conley, but Mike Conley gets hurt all the time.
He does.
Schroeder to me is a scoring guard, point guard. He wants to score. This year he was forced to have to set the table because LeBron carried the ball all the time. Right. So he was forced to be like a 2 guard basically. But when you go back and you watch Schroeder play when he was in Atlanta, Oklahoma City, he was a scoring guard.
Yeah.
And we don't need a scoring guard. And defensively, he's not as good as any of the other ones I just named. So I'm not saying I'm not a fan of his. It's just I don't think for this team, I think you need more of a table setter.
Yeah. And then I'll wrap it up with this question. So say you got your ideal situation in Chicago, right? You get Derrick Rose, you get Lonzo Ball, maybe a guy like Jay Crowder, what's the ceiling for this team?
Oh, the ceiling is unlimited, because what I say about this team is like they have to believe that they are good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's about your attitude, and it starts in training camp. It starts in practices. You gotta foster competitiveness. Okay, like in our practice in our championship years, man, you saw it in the Last Dance. Yeah. Our practices were more intense than the games.
Right.
Like there was fights in practice, man, on a daily basis. I mean, guys threw hands. A lot of that didn't get really. You saw a little bit of it, but you didn't really see all of it.
All of it.
Even in the first three-peat, because I call that the first dance. Is that we had guys. I mean, there's fights all the time. It was so competitive, and that's what makes your team better when the guy behind you is like a hungry dog. Mm-hmm. And there's only one steak in the floor. And 2 dogs have to fight for that one steak. One dog ain't gonna say, hey, look, man, you look more hungry than I do. You go ahead and eat it. No, they're gonna fight for it. And it's gonna harbor competitiveness. And that's what it did for us. I'm about, me, Scott Williams, we're nipping at, Horace Grant's minutes every day.
Right.
We're fighting him every day to let him know, dude, listen, don't get comfortable. We want to play too. Yeah. So we're pushing him to be a better player. Right. We're pushing now. I mean, not too many people can push Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan is an ultra competitive person anyway. Exactly. Scotty, there's guys behind Scotty that's pushing him for minutes. So it made him a better player. So you have to have that kind of, and we still like each other. We get in a fist fight in practice and still hang out and go have a lunch together and be no problem. You heard it when Jordan punched Steve Kerr. There was much more respect after that. So you can still be mad at your teammate, but once you leave the practice floor, it's over.
Right, definitely.
And that's what I'd like to see the Bulls do is to, they're such good guys.
Yeah, definitely.
You knock somebody to the floor, they're helping them up.
Helping up, yeah.
Yeah, come here, let me help you up. Come here. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. No, we don't need that. Because when you watch teams knock the Bulls down, they don't help them up.
Nope.
So you got to foster this attitude, like, we trying to knock your head off.
Yeah.
Like when I play against a former teammate that I went to school with in Oklahoma, like, man, I wasn't talking to you. We talk after the game. Yeah. Like, hey, Mookie, how you doing, man? How's the family? It was none of that kind of talk. It was like, dude, we here for business. Right. I'll talk to you after the game. We trying to kill you. So, and that's what you have to be, man. You can't be everybody's friend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, Stacey, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me for this interview. Like I said, giving me an opportunity. It's really an honor. So I want to thank you for that.
Hey, no, man. I listen, I'm glad to be on, man. I'm always interested in helping young guys out. And, I know how difficult podcast, it seems easy, but I know how difficult it is. I'm already on my 40th episode of mine. So, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot more work than people think.
It is. No, yeah, I was like just practicing, making sure I didn't like stumble over anything.
No, you did good, man. You did good, and
Thank you.
I'm glad I helped you out. And like I said, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Just be who you are, and everything will work out for itself.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, man. Have a great one.
Good luck, buddy.
Thank you, man.
Take it easy, brother.
You too.